The sky split open with a sound like the earth itself groaning. Bright green flames licked the clouds as the Zarkith warships pierced the atmosphere, casting a sickly glow over the endless emerald canopy of the Amazon rainforest. The jungle, ancient and vast, seemed to flinch as if it knew what was coming. From orbit, the jungle looked like chaos, a green blot on a blue world, defying logic, unstructured, uncontrolled. To the Zarkith dominion, that made it dangerous. A biotic anomaly. Earth's last untouched wilderness was classified as a planetary infection vector, a phrase coldly spoken in their high command briefings. The order was simple: eradicate. Hover drones descended first, black like locusts, buzzing with the confidence of superior technology. They scanned, calculated, and deployed sterilization mists that turned leaves to ash and choked birds mid-flight. Behind them followed the crawler mechs, all legs and cannons, flattening anything that breathed. The trees screamed in silence as they fell. Commander Elrath, a sinewy being with 3 eyes and skin like old stone, watched from the lead crawler. Primitive terrain. Unresponsive, he muttered, tapping a screen that displayed heat signatures of fleeing animals. Begin clearing pattern delta. Cleanse a 200-kilometer radius before nightfall. But night fell faster than they expected. By the second hour, the drones began failing. First it was interference. Then full blackouts. Entire squads stopped reporting. On screen, their location markers flickered, then vanished. The AI interface stuttered, failing to interpret new variables. Some drones showed odd footage. Images of faces half seen behind vines, eyes glowing unnaturally in the dark, shadows that moved with intelligence. Private Velk, young and jittery, radioed back from the southern perimeter. Command, I think something's out there. It's not just animals. Static swallowed his voice. His signal never returned. The jungle had begun to fight back. Commander Elrath deployed additional firebombers to burn a path forward. The canopy exploded in flame, branches falling like torched limbs. For a moment, it looked as though they were winning. But within minutes, the flames died, not naturally, but as if smothered by something unseen. Smoke curled backwards. Ash turned to mist. The firebombers crashed, ripped from the sky by winds no weather system predicted. In the heart of the jungle, 20 meters above ground, a figure watched in perfect stillness. Skin covered in biosynthetic camouflage that shimmered with the colors of bark and leaf, she blended into the tree as if born from it. Her name was Wren, and she had lived in the jungle long before the war began. Through the tiny earpiece in her skull, a voice crackled. Confirmed pattern. Infiltration Vector Alpha. You're clear. Wren didn't respond. She didn't need to. She moved like a whisper through the canopy, dropping from branch to branch with surgical precision. Beneath her, a Zarkith patrol moved in staggered formation, scanning wildly. One looked up, too late. A vine whipped down, tightening around its neck, and dragged it silently into the green above. Not a sound. The others turned in confusion, weapons raised, but there was nothing. Only the trees. In a camouflaged blind several clicks east, another observer leaned over a console. Captain Rafe Vega, face scarred and eyes cold with purpose, watched the carnage through a dozen feed. Around him, the command cell thrummed with quiet intensity. Unlike his enemies, he didn't rely on satellite. He trusted the forest and the people who lived in it. Status, he asked, not looking away from the screen. Enemy command structure remains intact, but frontline units are folding, said Tech Officer Malik, glancing up. Psychological collapse likely within 3 hours. Vega nodded. Send word to the others. Tonight we hit their core. He leaned back, letting the flickering screen light dance across his features. The last time aliens came to Earth, they glassed cities and thought that was the end. They never understood the wilderness, never understood that Earth didn't need skyscrapers to fight. The planet's oldest defense had just been waiting. In the clearing where the Zarkith had landed their staging ground, soldiers now screamed in confusion. Something was in the trees. Something they couldn't see. something that knew the forest better than they ever could. Elrith stood still, listening. There it was again, that sensation, like being watched by the very ground beneath his feet. A rustle, a click, a screech, not mechanical, not animal. The men beside him were already firing into the trees, blindly. Above them, hidden in the shadows, Ren pulled back a bough made of compressed biofiber. The arrow hummed with kinetic charge. She released. The shaft buried itself into the power core of the nearest crawler, and the resulting explosion lit the night like a dying star. Far away, Vega smiled. Let the jungle eat them. And the forest obeyed. The body was still warm when Ren dragged it into the underbrush. Alien blood, thick and iridescent, stained her gloves as she searched the corpse for intelligence tags. She found none. The Zarkith had finally learned to encrypt biologically. It didn't matter. They were still loud, clumsy, and blind in terrain that whispered secrets to her with every shift in the wind. A low pulse echoed in her ear, 3 short beats. Contact signal. She slipped through the undergrowth and emerged into a ravine that served as one of their concealed supply points. Captain Rafe Vega stood there, his back to her, surveying the treetop canopy where microdrones recorded the jungle's response. His armor bore the marks of long campaigns, moss growing along one shoulder, his rank insignia half covered by grime and age. Yet he stood straight, solid, rooted, like the jungle itself had shaped him. They've begun adapting, Ren said quietly. Vega turned slightly. His eyes were sharp, calculating. So have we. She tossed the alien's blood-slicked gear at his feet. He barely glanced down. Instead, he activated the portable holomap embedded in his vambrace. A grid of the jungle's western sector came alive in ghostly blue. They're fortifying their position along the river bend, he muttered. Probably going to deploy more of those deforestation crawlers before dawn. We can't let them get that far. Ren folded her arms. They're bringing in spore neutralizers now. They're targeting the fungal web. Vega's jaw tightened. Of course they are. The fungal web, Earth's underground nervous system, was what allowed the JSF to maintain coordination without electronic communication. If the Zarkith severed it, they'd be blind, scattered, reduced to gorillas with no unity. Vega turned to a third figure stepping out of the foliage. Malik, their field engineer and one of the few who still wore a standard-issue helmet, albeit modified with vines and bark. He tapped his tablet, eyes flicking rapidly. We've got a window before they deploy the toxin drones. 2, maybe 3 hours. After that, the southern corridor's a no-go. Vega's gaze moved between them. Then we strike now. Ren's lips curled, almost smiling. About time. The JSF moved in complete silence. 10 soldiers, each bred or trained for this terrain, fanned out across the southern ridge. None used radio. None needed to. Their minds weren't linked by tech. They were synchronized by years of training, ritual, and something deeper, a bond with the forest itself. Each member of the Jungle Special Forces was part of Earth's final deterrent program, born after the first planetary invasion decades ago. Some were enhanced through biointegration, nerve clusters that interfaced with soil data, pheromonal receptors, muscle memory tied to predator movement. Others, like Ren, were born in the forest and taught to listen before they ever learned to speak. As they advanced, the underbrush seemed to part for them. Insects swarmed around but never touched them. Leaves curled away from their boot. The jungle recognized them. Their target was a Zarkith resource relay hub, a metallic growth in the heart of the rainforest, pulsing with an ugly yellow light. It was guarded by 24 infantry, reinforced by aerial sentries. High above, drones spun lazy circles, unaware of how many eyes watched them from below. Vega held up a fist. The squad froze. They waited. One of the drones dipped lower, its scanning light brushing the treetop. As it passed, a figure shot from the branches. Kira, the team's climber, landed directly on the drone's back, slicing its core with a wrist blade. She vanished back into the canopy before the body hit the ground. The sentries didn't even notice. Vega nodded once. The attack was brutal and wordless. From the ground, vines wrapped around armored legs and dragged soldiers screaming into the dark. From the trees, arrows hissed through the air, each tipped with a fungal toxin that fed on synthetic compound. Within seconds, the aliens' weapons failed, melted, or backfired. Ren struck with feral grace, her dual blades whispering through alien armor like paper. She moved like water through stone, elegant and unrelenting. When the last soldier fell, choking on his own bile, Vega stepped into the clearing. The resource hub was already being consumed. Bioengineered termites, Earth's quiet soldiers, had infiltrated the outer shell and begun eating the structure from the inside out. Within minutes, the whole thing would collapse, reduced to mulch. Malik crouched beside a dying Zarkith officer, scanning his neural data with a spike. Encrypted, but he tried to call for reinforcements, he muttered. Signal never got through. Vega's eyes narrowed. Good. That means they still don't know how deep we've cut. He looked around at the burning wreckage, at the vines tightening around steel supports, at the jungle reclaiming its flesh. For every step the Zarkith took, Earth took 3 back. It wasn't just resistance. It was symbiosis. They had awakened something primal in the forest, and in themselves. But Vega knew it wouldn't last. The Zarkith weren't fools. Every failed offensive taught them something. They would return smarter, harder, and soon. And when they did, they'd bring fire the jungle might not be able to smother. Back at the ravine camp, the squad regrouped. Some ate in silence. Others checked gear, replaced camouflage layers, or whispered prayers to Old Spirit. Vega stood apart, facing the canopy, thinking. Ren approached him quietly. You're thinking about the protocol. His jaw flexed, but he didn't answer right away. Finally, he said, if they bring those bio-titans we've heard rumors about, if they torch the canopy line from orbit, we won't be enough. She stepped closer. The jungle's not done yet. Neither are we. Vega turned to her, the weight of command in his stare. Then we prepare. Tonight we cut off their air support. Tomorrow, we remind them why Earth is not for conquest. Above them, a sudden wind stirred the leaves. Not natural, not of weather, but of warning. Something was coming. Vega could feel it in his bones. And the forest agreed. The first tremor came at dawn, deep and distant, like the growl of a waking beast. The birds didn't sing. The insects fell silent. Even the wind held its breath. Rafe Vega stood beneath the arching roots of a fallen ceiba tree, staring westward. The jungle was tense, bracing. They all felt it. The storm had arrived. A column of fire rose beyond the ridgeline, scorching the morning haze. Branches blackened in an instant. From the heat shimmer, a titan emerged. The Zarkith called them exoburners, but to the JSF they were simply abominations. 40 feet tall, covered in bioalloy plates that pulsed with internal fluid systems, the creature walked on 2 trunk-like legs, its arms fused with flamethrower cannons and acid vent. Wherever it moved, the forest died. Whole ecosystems turned to ash with every step. They brought it, Malik said grimly, peering through his scope. Straight into our heart. Vega didn't respond. He was already calculating escape routes, choke points, environmental vulnerabilities, but nothing short of a miracle would stop a creature like that. He touched the carved pendant on his chest, the last thing he had of his father, and turned to Ren. It's time. She didn't question. Her face was streaked with mud and sweat, but her eyes were steady. 4 weeks they'd held back Earth's deepest weapon. Not because they feared it, because they respected what waking it meant. Malik opened the secure case they'd carried with them since the invasion began. Inside rested a crystalline pod, pulsing faintly, humming with ancient energy. The Gaia Protocol. The final bond between Earth's wild mind and its human guardians. Activating it meant surrendering control to something older, deeper, and far less forgiving. Vega took a breath and placed his palm on the pod. Gaia, he whispered, we need you. The light surged. Across the jungle, the fungal web ignited, not in flame but in purpose. Mycelial networks deep underground activated dormant seeds, called slumbering roots to action. Trees trembled. The ground cracked open. Something vast began to stir. The exoburner paused mid-stride, sensing the shift. Its internal systems flared with alert signals, but it was already too late. A massive tree erupted from the earth, not growing, but awakening. Its bark shimmered with bioluminescent glyph. Its branches cracked through the air, impossibly fast. Vines coiled around the titan's legs, tightening like ligaments. The jungle was no longer fighting defensively. It was reclaiming. JSF units emerged from the trees, each mounted on bioengineered beasts. Panther serpents, scaled wolves, even a winged reptile that hadn't been seen in centuries. Vega rode at the front, armor fusing with his mount like two halves of the same predator. He held no rifle now, but a spear grown from living coral and laced with voltage. It thrummed in his hand like a heartbeat. Ren was already airborne, leaping from branch to branch with perfect rhythm. She fired a toxin pod into the Titan's vent. The machinery hissed, shuddered. Steam erupted from its spine as systems fought unfamiliar decay. Still, the beast roared. It launched fire in all directions, setting whole tree lines ablaze. Flames licked toward the canopy, but the canopy bent. Entire trees moved to shield the undergrowth, sacrificing themselves with sentient purpose. Leaves blackened. Roots groaned. Vega charged. His mount weaved between molten craters, dodging blasts, until they reached the exoburner's flank. He drove the spear deep into its armor. Electricity surged. The Titan reeled. Ren followed up with a charge from above, landing on its head, blades sparking as she carved through optic sensors. The jungle rose higher. Around them, the land itself turned against the invaders. Sinkholes opened beneath crawler tank. Poisonous spores clouded enemy air corridors. Drones fell from the sky, fried by electromagnetic pulses exhaled by living moss. The exoburner fell, one final roar choked off by 1,000 constricting vines. The ground shook as it collapsed, its core blinking once, then dark. Silence returned. Vega dismounted, staring at the fallen machine. The jungle around him was smoldering, scarred, but alive. It had paid a price. They all had. Malik arrived with a transmitter piece scavenged from a fallen Zarkith officer. Intercepted their comms, he said. Their command fleet is confused. They thought the jungle was just biomass, not intelligence. Vega exhaled slowly. Then send a message. He stepped into the clearing, blood and ash streaking his armor. With the transmitter in hand, he faced the sky. This is Captain Rafe Vega of Earth's Jungle Special Forces, he said. To the Zarkith Dominion, or anyone else watching, you thought our wild was unguarded. That our wilderness was weakness. You were wrong. His voice hardened. This world doesn't bow. It remembers. And now, so will you. He ended the transmission and let the device drop. Behind him, the jungle groaned, healing. Ren appeared at his side, breathing hard. They'll come again. Vega nodded. Then we wait. The jungle rustled in agreement. The Zarkith Dominion responded with silence, but it was the kind that trembled with fury just beneath its surface. For 3 days, no ships entered Earth's orbit. The sky remained cloudless. Satellites detected no transmissions, no reinforcements, no movement from the Dominion fleet hovering in the shadow of the moon. Yet every JSF operative knew, this was not retreat. It was calculation. Something worse was coming. Captain Vega stood at the northern lookout, high above the upper canopy where the mist rolled like slow tide. From here, he could see the scorched scars left behind by the exoburner. Even now, the jungle worked to regrow what had been lost, new shoots poking defiantly through blackened soil, ferns spreading their fingers toward the light. Resilience was not passive, it was a force of will. The same force that ran through the veins of every jungle special forces operative. Ren joined him quietly, crouching beside a nest of greenhorn birds that hadn't yet flown. Their mother sat atop them, unbothered by her presence. "They're waiting for us to let our guard down," she said, not looking up. "They won't get the chance," Vega replied. "But we're running out of advantages." Malik's voice crackled through the moss-hardened commline. "Captain, we've just detected a low-orbit field fluctuation. Pattern doesn't match known Zarkith craft. It's bigger." "How big?" Vega asked. "Think colony ship. But it's different." That word, different, stuck in Vega's mind like a splinter. He'd seen enough death to know that when enemies tried something different, it rarely meant hope. Hours later, when the ship breached the sky, it blotted out the sun. It wasn't a warship. It was a seed. The Zarkith hadn't come to conquer. They came to overwrite. The object pulsed with unnatural life as it descended. Its outer shell was organic, fibrous, almost fungal, and as it landed, it released a tremor that shook the jungle to its roots. Thick tendrils uncoiled from its base, embedding themselves into the earth. Where they touched, the land withered. Leaves shriveled midair. The air turned sour. Vega assembled the strike team immediately. The forest howled in protest, a deep, mournful sound that made even hardened soldiers shiver. Malik arrived breathless, clutching a data slate that fizzled from constant interference. "That thing, it's terraforming," he said. "But not just the land. It's rewriting biochemistry. If we let it spread—" "It won't," Vega cut in. They moved out at dusk, under a bruised purple sky. Each operative wore organic filters and armor laced with jungle symbionts that could resist the encroaching decay. But even so, they moved slower now. The forest was sickening. The trees whispered warnings in creaking groans. Spores danced in the air like malevolent fireflies. As they neared the landing site, the jungle fell deathly quiet. The seed structure towered before them, pulsing like a diseased heart. Around it, Zarkith infantry moved with unnerving calm. These were not the clumsy foot soldiers of before. These were altered, taller, leaner, skin spliced with the same invasive growths as their ship. They walked like they didn't belong to this world anymore. Like they didn't need to. Vega raised his hand. The JSF struck without warning. Explosives detonated along the perimeter, sending fire through the nutrient pods the seed had planted. Flames roared, momentarily illuminating the grotesque shape of the ship's lower membrane. From the trees, Ren descended like judgment, carving through 2 sentries before they had time to scream. Her movements were sharper now, more fluid, an edge honed by loss and fury. Malik deployed spore neutralizers along the eastern corridor, but their effectiveness was dwindling. "It's learning," he muttered, watching the spores adapt, reroute. "We have minutes, not hours." Vega charged forward, spear drawn. He fought without hesitation, driving the living weapon into the central node of the ship's lower core. A surge of heat burned his hand through the glove, but he held firm, even as the spear liquefied at the tip. The node cracked, and from it poured a thick, writhing ooze. The ship screamed. Not metaphorically. The structure let out a sound so high and resonant that the very leaves shook from the trees. It was pain. Sentience. Rage. The forest reacted instantly. Roots rose like fists. Vines shot from the ground, wrapping around Zarkith bodies, dragging them beneath the soil. Even the animals joined, howler monkeys throwing stones, jaguars stalking through smoke. The planet had reached its breaking point. Vega stumbled back, his skin blistered, vision blurred. Ren caught him before he fell. "We can't destroy this," she said over the roar of the dying ship. "But we can bury it." Malik's voice rang through the link. "There's a cavern system beneath the western slope. I can reroute the underground river, collapse the ground under it." "Do it," Vega said. "Now." Minutes passed like lifetimes. Malik worked, hands shaking as he redirected root systems to break a dam created decades ago for jungle irrigation. The river answered his call, surging through old stone and cracked tunnels. The ground beneath the Zarkith seed moaned. It tilted, pulsed once more, Then the earth swallowed it whole. The impact sent tremors for miles. A column of dust rose, then settled. The jungle held its breath. Then came the quiet. Ren stood with Vega, both leaning on each other, bloodied but alive. Around them, the JSF regrouped. Malik emerged from the smoke, soaked but grinning. "It's buried," he said. "Deep." Vega nodded. "Then Earth breathes again. For now." But he looked toward the horizon, where the stars flickered. The fight wasn't over. It had only just begun.